Flight information. Flight number, Falcon Air 718. Airline, Falcon Air International. Aircraft, Boeing 747-400. Route, Singapore Right Arrow Sydney. Date, October 17. Departure time, 8:45 p.m. Flight time, 7 hours. Passengers, 368. Crew 18. Cockpit crew. Captain Daniel Reeves, 58 years old. Nearly 22,000 flight hours. A respected training captain, known for remaining calm during emergencies. First Officer Emma Carter, 34. Sharp. Disciplined. One of the airline's rising stars. And then, there was someone unusual. Flight engineer Michael Lawson, 64 years old. One of the last active flight engineers in commercial aviation. He had spent 4 decades around jet engines. He knew airplanes that most younger pilots had only read about. Tonight, no one imagined his memory would become the difference between life and disaster. Weather, perfect, clear skies, light winds, visibility over 20 kilometers, almost no turbulence across the route. The kind of night pilots secretly hoped for. No storms, no icing, no weather threats. Everything looked routine. But sometimes, the greatest danger isn't outside the aircraft. It's hidden inside. Scene 1, a routine departure. Narration. Singapore's runway, lights stretched endlessly into the darkness. Ground crews completed their final inspections. Baggage doors closed. Fuel trucks pulled away. Passengers settled into their seats. Children watched airplanes through the windows. Business travelers opened laptops. Newlyweds planned tomorrow's vacation. Everything felt ordinary. Captain Reeves entered the cockpit carrying coffee. Looks like an easy night. Emma smiled. I'll take easy. Michael, however, didn't smile. He quietly reviewed engine records. Again and again. Then once more. Captain Reeves noticed. Everything all right? Michael nodded. Probably. It wasn't the answer anyone wanted from the man responsible for monitoring 4 massive jet engines. Cockpit dialogue. Captain. Pre-flight complete. First Officer. Complete. Flight engineer. Fuel balanced. Hydraulics normal. Electrical systems normal. Still reviewing engine maintenance. Captain. Anything unusual? Michael hesitated. No. Just something I remembered. ATC. Falcon 718 cleared for pushback. Pushback approved. Passenger reactions. Seatbelt signs illuminated. Cabin crew smiled. Nobody suspected anything unusual. Outside, rain from earlier reflected the airport lights like glass. Technical explanation. The Boeing 747 uses extensive maintenance records throughout its operational life. Although aircraft receive constant inspections, historical maintenance data can sometimes reveal recurring issues or long-term component trends that modern diagnostics might not immediately highlight. Suspense ending. As the aircraft pushed back, Michael quietly looked toward Engine 2. For a moment, his expression changed. Then, he looked away. Scene 2, the forgotten entry. Narration. Taxi to runway 20C was smooth. Everything appeared perfect. But Michael couldn't stop thinking. 30 years earlier, he had worked as a junior engineer on another 747. Different airline, different crew, same engine manufacturer, same strange vibration. Back then, nobody believed the old mechanic until an engine exploded over the Pacific. Only afterward did investigators discover a tiny maintenance note hidden inside handwritten records, a note almost everyone ignored. Michael suddenly remembered something. He reached into his flight bag. Inside, an old notebook, one he had carried for decades. Cockpit dialogue. Emma, what's that? Michael, my first maintenance journal. Captain, you still carry it. Michael smiled. Old habits. ATC. Falcon 718. Taxi to holding point runway 20 center. Taxiing. Passenger reactions. Most passengers watched safety videos. Children pointed at departing aircraft. Cabin crew performed final checks. Everything remained calm. Technical explanation. Experienced engineers often keep personal notes throughout their careers. While unofficial, these journals can contain observations from incidents that shaped later maintenance practices. Suspense ending. Michael flipped through dozens of pages, then stopped. One page, one engine, one handwritten warning. His breathing slowed. Scene 3 into the night. Narration. The 4 engines roared. The aircraft accelerated. 80 knots. V1. Rotate. The giant Boeing lifted gracefully into the night sky. Singapore disappeared beneath scattered city lights. Passengers applauded softly. Inside the cockpit, everything looked textbook. Gear up. Flaps retracted. Autopilot engaged. Captain Reeves relaxed slightly. So far, the easiest flight this week. Michael didn't answer. He kept staring at Engine 2's vibration display. Numbers. Perfectly normal. Yet something bothered him. Not the values. The pattern. Cockpit dialogue. Captain. Anything. Michael. No abnormal indication. Emma. But. Michael. I've seen this before. Silence. ATC. Falcon 718. Climb flight level 370. Climb approved. Technical explanation. Engines can sometimes show tiny fluctuation that remain within acceptable operating limits. Experienced engineers occasionally notice patterns long before instruments trigger warnings. Suspense ending. Engine 2 briefly vibrated. Just half a second. Then, returned to normal. No alarms. No warnings. Nothing. Except Michael's expression. Scene 4 cruise. Narration. 2 hours later. The aircraft settled comfortably at 37,000 feet. Dinner service finished. Cabin lights dimmed. Passengers slept. The Pacific stretched below like endless darkness. Only stars surrounded Falcon 718. Inside the cockpit, Captain Reeves reviewed weather ahead. Smooth. Perfect. Emma checked fuel. Everything exactly as planned. Michael quietly opened the old maintenance journal again. One sentence had been underlined decades earlier. If vibration returns after stable cruise, land immediately. He frowned. The aircraft wasn't vibrating. Yet, passenger reactions. Most passengers were asleep. A little girl watched stars through the window. A businessman removed his headphones. A mother comforted her infant. Nothing seemed wrong. Technical explanation. Many engine problems begin with extremely subtle vibration changes long before serious mechanical failure occurs. Monitoring these trends is essential. Suspense ending. Without warning, engine 2 vibration increased. 0.9, 1.2, 1.5, still below emergency limits, but climbing slowly. Scene 5, the first warning. Narration. The cockpit became quiet. Too quiet. Michael leaned closer. Oil pressure remained steady. Temperature normal. Fuel flow normal. Only vibration. Continued climbing. Captain Reeves noticed. "You think this matters?" Michael answered carefully. "I don't know. But 30 years ago, it mattered." Cockpit dialogue. Emma. No ECAM messages. Captain. No caution lights. Michael. Not yet. Technical explanation. Modern aircraft rely on multiple sensors before issuing cockpit warnings. An experienced crew may recognize an emerging problem before the automated systems do. Suspense ending. Then, a single amber caution illuminated. Engine vibration. Just one light. But everyone in the cockpit understood. This flight had changed forever. Scene 6, the logbook opens. Narration. Michael reached into his worn leather bag. His hands shook. He removed the old maintenance log. The pages were yellow with age. Some corners were torn. Grease stains covered the margins. Captain Reeves watched in disbelief. "You brought that on the flight?" Michael nodded. "I never travel without it." He turned to a page dated 1996. The entry described a nearly identical vibration pattern on another Boeing 747. The final handwritten line read, "If oil pressure drops within 2 minutes of vibration increase, shut the engine down before structural failure." Michael looked at the engine instruments. The vibration climbed again. Then, the oil pressure needle twitched. Just once. Barely noticeable. Captain Reeves felt a chill. Emma whispered, "That can't be a coincidence." Michael didn't answer. He simply looked at the captain and said, "We have less than 2 minutes." At that exact moment, a deep metallic thud echoed through the airframe. The coffee in the cockpit trembled. Passengers looked up in confusion. Then the master caution sounded for the first time. Scene 7, the sound that changed everything. Narration. The dull metallic thud echoed through the aircraft. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Passengers looked around in confusion. Several believed they had flown through turbulence. But inside the cockpit, everyone knew. The vibration that Michael had feared was no longer just a warning. The aircraft itself seemed to shudder. Captain Reeves immediately shifted from calm conversation to complete focus. The cockpit became silent except for warning tones and short, deliberate words. Michael kept his eyes fixed on the engine display. His face showed no panic, only disappointment. He had hoped history would not repeat itself. But it had. Passenger reactions. A baby began crying. A flight attendant paused in the aisle. Coffee trembled inside paper cups. Several passengers looked out their windows searching for answers. Nobody knew how serious the situation had become. Technical explanation. Modern airliners are built with multiple layers of redundancy. Even when one engine suffers a major malfunction, the aircraft is designed to remain controllable while the crew works to bring everyone safely back to the ground. Suspense ending. Then, the warning tone changed. A new message appeared. Every person in the cockpit understood its meaning. Scene 8: A race against time. Narration. Captain Reeves looked at his crew. No shouting. No panic. Just years of experience meeting one terrible moment. Emma informed air traffic control that the flight needed immediate assistance. Michael quietly closed the old maintenance log. Its final page had predicted almost every symptom. He whispered, "I prayed I'd never see this again." Outside, the night sky remained calm. Inside the cockpit, every second mattered. Passenger reactions. Cabin crew calmly asked everyone to remain seated. Some passengers sensed concern in their voices. The cabin slowly grew quiet. People exchanged worried looks. Suspense ending. Then the aircraft jolted once more. A louder bang followed. Lights flickered. The cabin fell completely silent. Scene 9: Hope above the ocean. Narration. Hundreds of miles from land, Falcon Air 718 continued through the darkness. Captain Reeves knew one thing. The passengers did not need to know every detail. They needed confidence. His announcement was calm, measured, professional. He explained that the aircraft was diverting as a precaution and asked everyone to follow the cabin crew's instructions. His steady voice became the calmest sound anyone on board would hear that night. Passenger reactions. Some people prayed quietly. Others held hands. A little girl asked her mother, "Are we going home?" Her mother smiled, even though tears filled her eyes. Suspense ending. Far ahead, airport lights finally appeared on the horizon. But reaching them would be the hardest part. Scene 10: One chance. Narration. The diversion airport prepared for the arrival. Emergency vehicles lined the runway. Firefighters stood ready. Medical teams waited beside their equipment. Inside the cockpit, no one celebrated. Not yet. The airplane still had to land safely. Michael looked once more at the old maintenance log. He gently closed it. 30 years earlier, another crew had never reached a runway. Tonight, he hoped this crew would. Suspense ending. The runway lights grew larger. Everyone held their breath. Scene 11: Home again. Narration. The enormous aircraft descended through the darkness. Passengers stared out their windows. Some closed their eyes. Others squeezed the hands of strangers. The wheels finally touched the runway. For one long second, nobody spoke. Then applause erupted throughout the cabin. Some passengers cried openly. Flight attendants hugged each other. Captain Reeves simply leaned back and smiled. "We're home." Scene 12: The investigation begins. Narration. By sunrise, investigators surrounded the aircraft. The damaged engine became the center of attention. Maintenance records were collected. Digital data was downloaded. Then investigators noticed something unexpected. Michael's old handwritten maintenance journal. One investigator asked, "Why did you bring this?" Michael answered, "Because sometimes experience remembers what computers forget." Scene 13: The black box. Narration. Days later, the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder told the complete story. The data confirmed that the engine had developed an internal fault that progressed rapidly. The aircraft systems captured every change. Michael's notebook had not caused the discovery. It had simply reminded him of a pattern from decades before. Investigators later found that the earlier incident and this one shared a rare similarity in wear progression, but they were not identical events. His memory had prompted the crew to pay closer attention before the failure became obvious. Scene 14, 30 years earlier. Narration. Michael returned home. He opened an old photo album. There he found a faded picture of himself as a young engineer, standing beside an aging Boeing 747. He remembered the crew that never made it home. For decades, he had carried that notebook as a reminder, not of failure, but of responsibility. Scene 15, lessons written in ink. Narration. Months later, Falcon Air updated its training materials. The company encouraged engineers and pilots to share historical experience alongside modern data. Technology had become incredibly advanced, but experience still mattered. The oldest lesson in the room sometimes became the most valuable. Ending. Narration. All 368 passengers and 18 crew members returned safely to their families. Captain Daniel Reeves retired the following year after an extraordinary career. First Officer Emma Carter later became a captain, carrying with her the lessons from that unforgettable night. Michael Lawson finally placed the worn leather maintenance log inside a display case at the airline's training center. Across its faded cover, a small brass plaque read, "Experiences written one flight at a time." The investigation concluded that the engine failure resulted from an extremely rare mechanical defect that developed over time despite scheduled maintenance. Investigators also found that the old notebook was not official evidence and did not predict the failure exactly, but it encouraged heightened vigilance at a critical moment. In aviation, every flight teaches a lesson. Every inspection matters. Every voice deserves to be heard. And sometimes, the oldest story in the room can help save the future. Fade to black. Narrator outro. Thousands of flights cross our skis every day because aviation is built on continuous learning. Every incident, every investigation, and every lesson helps make the next flight safer than the last. The end.